You're listening to Tranzmission on 4ZZZ, amplifying the trans and gender non-conforming voices of Brisbane and beyond.
Hello, you're listening to Tranzmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez. I use he, him pronouns.
And my name is Cai, and I use they, she pronouns.
And we are all about amplifying the trans and gender non-conforming voices of Meanjin and beyond. Today we've got a very special episode. We'll be doing some of the week in community news and events, as usual, at the top. And then after that, we'll be having an interview with a local drag superstar, Lord Severus. So very excited for that one. And then later in the episode, we'll all be chatting together, the three of us, about Brisbane Pride Fair Day and some of the things and thoughts that we have around that experience. And hopefully she'll be enlightening for everyone. Other than that, we're going to start off at the top with the week in community events and news. So Queensland State Hub, which is QUT's queer collective at Kelvin Grove campus and online, have I think it's their state hub for queer collaborations. So that's from today, the 27th of September, to the 29th of September from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. This year, QUT will be hosting the in-person State Hub for Queer Collaborations. I'll pop the link for the registration for this on the Tranzmission Facebook page at Trans Radio with a Z. This year's theme is Inside Out, a reflection of the way our community has banded together over the last couple of years, despite being physically isolated from each other. Whether you're from Griffith, UQ, QUT, ACU, ASC, ASQ, TAFE, or somewhere else entirely, we'd love to see you join us at QUT Kelvin Grove to meet other queer people from across Australia, discuss important community issues, and work towards the uplifting of LGBTQIA+ students as a whole. This is a students-only event, so if you are not a student currently enrolled somewhere, you will not be able to attend. But that link will be on the Tranzmission Facebook page at Trans Radio with a Z.
Cool, and we've got Sapphics are having a spring fling at La La Land in Fortitude Valley on Friday, October 7th from 9 p.m. So Sapphics is back with our spring fling. Hold on to your flower crowns because this is going to be a big one. Meanjin's Sapphic community is invited to a night of dancing, connecting and springtime joy from 9 p.m. at La La Land in the Valley. We will have a couple of DJs, a photographer and a special appearance by a local performer. Line up to be announced.
So there's a bit of a teaser there, actually. The mystical menagerie murder on the dance floor, location at Backdock Arts in Fortitude Valley on Saturday, October 8th from 6 p.m. There has been a murder on the dance floor. Can you figure out who the killer is before they get you? Immerse yourself in Brisbane's newest variety show experience this Halloween season. This murder mystery features a live game narrator collaborating with burlesque, drag, kink, and sideshow performers of the Brisbane Underground. This show will leave you questioning your moral values more than ever before. Lineup includes Sev, Busybody, Ophelia Novak, Barbie Banks, Arlo Mythic. MC is Kazani? I'm going to say Zani. There's a C at the beginning, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Apologies.
And a trigger warning for content and themes for this next event. It's Queer and Trans Violence Prevention Community Day. Location is still to be confirmed at somewhere in New Farm. On Saturday, 15th of October, 11:30am, Medigender's One Voice has been working with local queer and trans workers across LGBTIQ+ community health, domestic and family violence, and sexual violence sectors to create spaces for community to come together to talk about experiences of violence and what is missing in current systems of support. This day will be the first event in what we hope to be a series of actions focusing on domestic, family, intimate, partner and sexual violence affecting LGBTIQ+, sister girl and brother boy communities. We invite community members to attend to enjoy food and connection. There will be a panel discussion featuring people with a lived experience of violence, talking about recovery, prevention and their experiences of navigating systems. This will be followed by adult and youth workshops on identifying and responding to violence within queer and trans relationships and how to stay as safe as possible, including where people may not feel safe accessing formal and mainstream services. We hope to follow this day up with more opportunities for community consultation and discussion soon.
Yeah, more information on all those events will be on the Tranzmission Facebook page at Trans Radio with a Z. We are now going to move into the news, which is kind of fun. There's actually like some nice fun things to report on this week. So trans activist Brenda Appleton has been honoured, a pioneering advocate who led the charge on Victoria's birth certificate reform for trans and gender diverse people. Appleton has been honoured with a Liberty Victoria Voltaire Human Rights Award. The Fitzroy Street Institution Monrose, in the inner Melbourne seaside suburb, is steeped in queer history and was a regular meeting spot for Seahorse Victoria, a social group for the state's trans and gender diverse community. Appleton spoke with The Guardian, saying, "In the 1990s, there were very few places that we could go where we were safe, and it was difficult for us to go to a restaurant in our presenting gender and use the bathrooms." The site of the former venue is now home to Australia's first Pride Centre, which comprises LGBTQIA+ organisations, including Transgender Victoria, a not-for-profit that Appleton, 71, led for 17 years. She says, "It brings such joy to my heart to see people being able to describe themselves the way they want."
And yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, and The Dream Life of Georgie Stone. Spanning 19 years, The Dream Life of Georgie Stone is a 29-minute documentary that reveals the memories of Georgie Stone, an Australian transgender teen, as she helps change laws, affirms her gender, finds her voice, and emerges into adulthood. Head over to dreamlifefilm.com for more information about the doco.
Yeah, I believe it is a Netflix original, so to watch it, you'll have to be hopping on there, but you can head to dreamlifefilm.com. There'll be lots of information there as well on where you can access it if you don't have that, and information on more of Georgie Stone's life. Really cool. Cai and I actually watched that last night.
Oh yeah, it was gorgeous. And for those that don't know, she is the young trans actor who was in Neighbours playing a trans character.
Yeah, Hargreaves. I don't know. I don't watch Neighbours, but I remember that. Yes, she's from that series. That's really cool. Breaking news. Would you like to report on the breaking news?
Yeah, I'll go on. Hannah Gadsby posted on social media this morning announcing, "I am chuffed to announce that Netflix has agreed to work with me on a stand-up special that will showcase genderqueer voices from around the world. I won't lie, this made my decision to do a third solo special with them a little easier." I guess that's a reference to some of the issues that Hannah had after some of the other specials that Netflix has had. So on that note, I am pretty excited to be filming my new feel-good show, Body of Work, at the Sydney Opera House. Yep, I'm back at the scene of the Nanette crime. The taping is happening tomorrow night and Thursday. It's a double banger. The shebang of it all will premiere on Netflix at some point in the future, I suppose. It's hard to say exactly because this is a flower and algorithms are boring.
We were on our way actually into the station this morning and I read that on my phone and you were like, "Send it to me quickly. We're telling everyone about this. This is cool." So yeah, very excited. Hopefully, I'm so chuffed by all the amazing media that's coming out by trans, for trans community and platforming voices. So it's excellent. Great stuff. Speaking of great stuff, we're going to listen to some music before we have our chat with our special guest today. This one is by Tash Sultana. It's live in Melbourne from the MTV Unplugged album. This one is called Flume. Amplifying the voices of the trans and gender non-conforming community of Meanjin, Brisbane and beyond.
Transmission on 4ZZZ brings you the latest in trans community news, music and events.
Every Tuesday from 9 a.m. till 10 a.m.
Join our team of hosts for an hour of celebrating the unique perspectives of the trans community.
Transmission, Tuesday mornings from 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. on 4ZZZ. You were just listening there to Against Me, F My Life 666. Filtering that a little bit because it feels a bit too early in the morning for me to swear, so I never know. But Against Me, amazing track there. Trans icons. You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez. I use he, him pronouns.
I'm Cai and I use they, she pronouns.
We are about to have a very special guest, aren't we, Cai?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited. They're in studio. I could see them smiling at me. I'm gonna read the little bio here. Disabled drag daddy and MC haunting the gay and metal bars of Meanjin. Please welcome Lord Severus. Hey,
thanks for having me. My name's Sev, or Lord Severus. I use he, they pronouns. I'm a disabled drag performer, living, creating, struggling on stolen land here in Meanjin.
Right. I'm so glad you're here. I've been wanting you to come in and chat about drag and queer performance with us for a while. And I know that you've been running Fruit as well, which is an incredible event that's put on every International Non-Binary Day. And I went to the last one. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. The last Fruit was particularly exciting. So Fruit was actually the brainchild of another Brisbane drag icon, the legendary Tina Becky, who has since moved on to another state, but occasionally comes back and gives us all some drama. And when she left, she very kindly sort of left it in mine and Ty's care. And between the two of us, we were able to put together something really magical for International Non-Binary Day this year. And Fruit's always had a very diverse lineup, but to be able to really focus in on making sure that we were celebrating, showcasing, and creating audience space, safe space, specifically focused on non-binary people. It's just a really unique, beautiful experience for me. I want to do more of it.
Yeah, it's amazing actually how the non-binary spaces in Brisbane have really expanded. Like in a short period of time. I think in the last 5 years, I can't believe just how much there is now. It's almost like through COVID, we all hibernated.
Oh, the great coming out.
And then we're woo! We're out there again. So it's great. So how long have you been in the drag scene?
So this is technically 4 or 5 years at this stage. But for me, it was a conscious pivot. I'd been doing cabaret and burlesque for 10, 12 years before that point. I went through this process of I'd always struggled with burlesque, watching what other incredible burlesque performers around me, like in England, in Europe, and here in Australia, they were so beautiful, so feminine, and so just engaging. And I always felt like I was putting on a costume and following moves and trying to work out femininity and how to be performatively sexy in the process. Drag felt like fun and something I needed to try. And honestly, the second I put it on, I was like, oh, it's the exact same feeling. Burlesque was gendered performance for me.
Right.
Drag is gendered performance for me. It's all the same, and maybe I need to ask myself some questions about what gender is. So drag gave me the greatest gift of all. For that was my great egg cracking. The ability, the ability to feel euphoria in gendered performance for the first time made me realize, I don't think I'd ever felt that before. Really, I'd never felt any sense of being truly in myself and in my body. And I have a complicated relationship with my body. I'm disabled. So I've spent most of my life distancing myself from truly experiencing everything in the moment, because chronic pain sucks. Limited mobility sucks. The way I have to move through the world is so delicate sometimes. And I'm not a delicate person. I feel like I should be crashing through walls like the Kool-Aid Man half the time. Instead, I'm oh no, there's stairs in this building. But yeah, not really putting much time into sitting and feeling with my body. I didn't know why I was miserable for decades. Didn't know why I was so uncomfortable with myself. After a month in drag, I'm oh no. So 5 years of doing drag to get to the point where when I was first performing, it was hypermasculine. It was leather daddy, hypermasculine drag. And now I'm getting some great joy out of being a trans masked person performing as a very feminine, over-accentuated drag queen sometimes as well. I'm just discovering playfulness in femininity is also a gift that it's now given me as well. Yeah, no, drag's a gift that keeps on giving. If it can do that for me in 5 years, catch me in 10.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll have to tee up an interview. Lock it in.
Update
me.
Check back in, yeah. And so this is a bit of a loaded question, but what is the significance of drag for the trans community? I know there's a lot of different opinions and perceptions out there.
Oh, look, very complicated issue and a lot of nuance required. But historically, drag was one of the safest places, one of the only places to express gender in a way that was surrounded only by community. And of course, it still wasn't safe. But our queer communities have always been a place where trans folk should have that community and safety. And so drag early on in our kind of bar culture was one of the best ways to make great money and be supported being exactly who you were as a trans person in the drag community. But obviously, drag is a completely different beast now than it was 30 years ago than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, thanks to popular television shows, which make any audience member who's a TV fan feel pretty entitled to let me know what they think of my drag.
Yeah, I bet. I guess, like, there's also sort of like layers with drag as well, because there's drag performance and then there's other forms of queer performance. How does drag fit in? Because drag is also something that's evolutionary change. Because I remember when I was growing up, I always perceived drag to be usually cis men dressing up in quotations as women and the performative element of a send-up of femininity, if you will. And now that's really changed. We have bio queens and we have different variations of expression of drag. What are these different forms like?
It's an interesting one to be in the center of, because I don't know entirely that really has changed, just that the size of the communities, the size of access has changed.
Right.
Absolutely, the first drag almost anybody sees tends to be, a cis gay white man in a dress.
Right.
That does tend to be people's first impression of drag. But obviously with visibility of other minority drag, it attracts more.
Yeah.
So the more space is created, the more that we see those drag performers. And the divide between drag and other forms of queer artistic performance, I don't even know that there is a line anymore. At least when I'm watching some drag, I'm like, yeah, this is very kind of camp traditional, pub drag inspired. But that being said, my favorite drag has always been off the wall, has always been kind of unique. And, even my drag, it's part burlesque, it's part satire, it's part comedy, it's part, soul-wrenching performance art if I'm having a bit of a breakdown and I need to get some feels out.
Yeah.
It can be part of, and all of those things. I've started talking about it more as though drag is a genre of performance. And within that, you can have all these other elements and cross genres and stuff. But all drag is to me now is queer expression through performance that has some sort of gendered play in it. But obviously, even the concept of gendered play gets more and more complex to think about. I'm trans, masculine, non-binary, and sometimes I like to wear skirts, and literally none of that has anything to do with performing a gender anymore.
Right.
That's just my life. So am I still doing drag?
Yeah, right. So that's sort of like a bit of there's a lot of nuance there, and self-interpretation of drag as well. Like, people can make it what they would like.
A dear friend actually said a couple of nights ago, and I think this is really interesting, they're referencing another incredible performer in the local scene who, like me, regularly likes to get all their kit off.
Yeah.
And this friend said, I think that's really interesting, that famous RuPaul quote, like, you're born naked and the rest is drag. But I've seen you be fully naked and definitely performing drag.
Yeah.
So at that point, what is drag anymore other than performance in that space that has that radical element of queer performance?
Yeah, I know several sex workers in different aspects of the community that consider the character they're playing during their work as drag. It can be a lot of things.
It absolutely can. And, for the majority of performers, you see this entire personal transformation when playing their character. Whereas I'm Sev here, I'm Sev at home, I'm Sev on stage. All that changes is the amount of leather and makeup I'm prepared to put on. And then some people have completely separate identities, separate energies for the character they only bring out. And I'm terrible. I have quite a lot of face blindness, and the amount of people I meet out of drag and have zero clue who they are. Like, Sev, we've known each other for years. Literally, without your signature eyeliner, I have no clue who you are. I'm so sorry, whoever that was at the coffee shop.
Yeah. I mean, and that happens, right? And I guess that's a similar experience with transition too. Like, someone who met me 5 years ago will definitely not recognize me now, which is, I guess there's some sort of like play there with transness and drag and that there are different ways that we've been expressing ourselves throughout our lives, especially as trans people, and drag creates a space where it's like, I can be whatever I feel like being, which is really cool.
And it's difficult for me because obviously my drag journey and my trans journey are, completely entwined. There's really no separation. One allowed me to express the other. But I feel like giving myself a space to learn how to project the sort of energy I wanted, to experiment with how to present myself and how I felt presenting myself. I'm transmasculine, but I have a very large chest. I walk through the world, plus size and with a undeniable sway in these hips you cannot control. Even when I try, I end up with back pain. So sometimes you got to let it out.
Uncontrollable, amazing hips.
They got to sway. What you going to do? But it's watching, even bar staff in, reasonably hetero but alternative bars. I live for the metal, so you got to go get it. Not needing any insight, gendering me correctly and using correct pronouns for me just because they read me so masculine.
Right, yeah.
Without the performative element. I worried for a long time. I think a lot of us go through a phase of worrying about how effective am I ever going to be at passing in a world, because I hate the concept of passing, particularly as a non-binary person. Like, I have every right to present however I want and live in the body I live in, particularly a body that already hurts. Like, just binding is an actual nightmare for me. Compression in my ribs, can't do it. So I had to make some choices early on. I was like, well, get okay with it, or, start raising some money.
Yeah.
I decided to get okay with it. I didn't expect other people to get on board as well. Like, I kind of assumed, like, that's the line. I'm just going to have to keep educating people and keep advocating for myself constantly, aggressively, all the time, because that's the choice I felt I was making. Honestly, not that much of a thing. I really thought it would be more of a thing than it is. And when I started thinking about why, is like, are people getting better? Is the world getting better at this? I think maybe a little, for sure. But at the same time, I gave myself a masterclass, a speed course in how to walk into a room and be like, Daddy's home.
And you have like such an amazing and commanding presence, especially as an MC. I absolutely love seeing you in the community, and I'm so grateful that you've come in this morning. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. Loving what you're doing for the community. It's amazing to be able to have shows directly focused for trans content, looking after our community. Love it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're actually going to go to a song that is a recommendation of yours. You want to talk a little bit about this one, Selma Soul?
Sure. So the track I've chosen is called It Gets Better by Selma Soul. Selma Soul is a local drag legend. She's a fierce trans woman, incredible performer, trivia host, MC, but musician. And we're only just starting to learn what an incredible musician she is. She's got this fierce, chaotic, queer energy that her performance art always held that I needed in music. This song was a direct response to the City Point College controversy regarding their incredibly homophobic and transphobic expectations of students and parents. Selma wrote this in a day as a response to that.
Okay.
And it's incredibly powerful. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. This one here is Selma Soul, It Gets Better. Language warning. That there was Queerbait with the track Clock, and before that you're listening to The Muslims with F the System, spelt System. You're listening to Tranzmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez. I use he, him pronouns.
I'm Cai, and I use they, she pronouns.
I'm Sev. I use he, they pronouns.
And we're now all going to be chatting about Brisbane Pride Fair Day, which was on the 24th of September, just been. And it was I mean, we were there. There was a lot of faces, a lot of really like beautiful people. It's one of the biggest Pride Fair days I've actually seen in terms of the
turnout.
A turnout, yeah. There were so many people who joined the march, and that was very cool. And there were lots of really amazing stalls as well. Unfortunately, for ZZZ, we were going to broadcast live from Musgrave Park on the day, but due to the council having to reduce down quite drastically the size of stalls that could be there on the day, meant that we were unable to broadcast live, which I believe Domenico from Exit Stage Z spoke about as well on Saturday. So yeah, apologies for everyone who was looking forward from a live broadcast from the event. But yeah, Brisbane Pride, I think, were very frantic in trying to arrange some things, and unfortunately didn't get everyone there. Sev, you were unfortunately not able to be there as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, I and some of the really dedicated volunteers from the Brisbane Leather Pride Committee and volunteers from Bootco had all been working for a number of weeks on producing the adult tent content for the year. The adult tent was unfortunately one of those structures that couldn't be fit into the festival. And we found out, the day before, which is a lot of people to wrangle and a lot of information to spread.
Yeah.
And also a lot of work.
Yeah, I know, because you had different sex ed educators who were going to put on sessions as well. And
we had sexual health educators, we had demonstrations, we had a panel of leather leaders and title holders, we had a sex worker panel talking about legality and access in Queensland, and a lot of really important content, a lot of opportunities to connect with community, and some of the parts of Pride that I personally am most attached to. I've been involved in the adult tent for years, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. So obviously it was very hard to see that work and preparation kind of come to this incredible anticlimax. I get that really tough decisions had to be made. And I do think people deserve a Pride Fair Day. It would have been really hard to pull it, or cancel it. But I also believe people really deserve a Pride Fair Day that serves the community.
Absolutely.
And that's the hardest bit for me. It's the work I know goes into the community stages.
Especially by, volunteers. And I mean, a lot of the not-for-profits that usually have stalls at Pride Fair Day, they're all volunteer run, and they plan for the year for Pride Fair Day. And, I know Cai and I were particularly upset because we really, really wanted Tranzmission to be there.
Oh, we were devastated. We wanted to meet people, and we wanted, we had people from other queer shows on Zed that were going to be there, and we were really excited to be a part of it. It's almost a surprise that Zed hasn't been a part of it for, previous years.
It is disappointing. I do have to say that, I think Pride Fair Day there are elements of rainbow capitalism going on that sort of make me wince a little bit sometimes. I think when I was much younger, like in my teens, so over a decade ago now, I used to attend Pride in Musgrave Park, and it was really cool to actually see it go back to its original space too in West End. I also think West End is just a really cool, like queer hub for especially trans people. It's such a great space, and it's a different kind of accessibility as well, because Newfound Park always, there's no trains or anything down there. You have to catch a bus, and then parking is always a nightmare. It's been a nightmare since I was a kid. Now it's extra rough. So I was really excited for the new location. Yeah, it was unfortunate, but I know lots of people had a great time, and thank you for everyone who turned up to show support for LGBTQIA plus community and in the rally and everything. Yeah, that's really big.
Yeah, and a shout out to, first of all of those community organisations that couldn't have their stalls, but also, a shout out as well to the ones who did show up, and regardless of not having a marquee in, like, it was so hot, they still came in and showed up, and these people put so much work into the community, and they're really coming from the heart.
That's it, that passion and commitment and drive. That's the community aspect that Pride is supposed to unify and bring out of us, and let us meet all the other incredible people doing things actively for their community, supporting growing community.
Yeah,
I think that's what, on a personal note, that's what hurts the most. Isn't that decisions had to be made to make the festival smaller, because I get it. Infrastructure's what it is, weather's what it is. I totally get it. I'm a producer myself, not to this scale, but I know how hard it is to make decisions on the fly that affect an entire event and ticket buying audiences. Like, I get it. What hurts is that the work of marginalized people, trans people, sex workers, disabled people, community organizations, that work was less deserving of space than corporate presentation. And
yeah, that's disappointing.
That's where my heart really struggles, because again, I get it, money important and having support, I guess, but when rainbow capitalism is more important than community, more important than outreach, more important than people actually networking, sharing their lived experiences. One of the things I was going to be presenting personally in the adult tent was talking about medical access, support systems, and advocacy for trans people in the healthcare system. Something that without the fellowship of other trans people, I would know nothing, because the information given to me by the system has not been great.
Yeah.
And I wanted to carve space to give other people the opportunity to start their journey, start asking questions, talk to specialists, talk to advocates. If Pride isn't about that, and instead it's about the forces and supermarkets, I don't know. I'm really struggling with how to be okay with that in my heart, because Pride is something not just that we do, like, it's something we have, like, we all deserve it. need it. We're still fighting for it. And I really felt, like as a
neglected, really.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
as a trans disabled person who I planned my Pride around my own accessibility needs, how to present the best thing I could with those needs, without shade, without seating, without a tent. Pride literally became inaccessible to me, and I didn't even get to go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. It is very disappointing. I think, there are select organisations that may be able to answer these, maybe have something to answer for. Yeah, if you're actually involved in any way with or listening today and you're a part of maybe one of the organisations, I would love to hear from you and hear your thoughts about what you think we should be doing to better this community. Brisbane Pride Fair Day has been iconic in this city. It is a space where everyone should feel welcome. It is a space that especially prioritises people who want to help make the world a better place, especially for marginalised communities, especially for our rainbow families. And if you want to be a part of that, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how we can make it better as well.
Yeah, and if you're a corporation or a business or something that isn't necessarily innately part of the community, I think you should really be trying to consider the space that you're taking up in our spaces, and what are you contributing? Is it useful that you are there, or can you use your platform by bringing in other organizations and giving them space and holding space for them? We will definitely look more fondly on your organization if that's on your business, if that's your goal, if you're actually listening to the community and prioritizing the community.
Yes.
That's what means something to us, not you just showing up.
I've been, Cai and I as Tranzmission have been interacting with the community for, the better part of the last 6 months, especially with Tranzmission and trying to be present. And some of the big things that I'm noticing is that trans people are really just, we're included where people feel, oh yes, we'll mention them because we want to be perceived as progressive. But in actual fact, you're not prioritizing our stories, and you're not actively trying to find trans activists or advocates to fill the platforms that we need to be in.
Yeah, or learning how to engage with trans people at all, or changing your systems for when you're not engaging with trans people. We'll ask about pronouns when we perceive there to be trans people here, and then no, don't worry, we're all just, it's normal now, there's no trans people here, we don't need to talk about we don't need to be inclusive now. Yeah, exactly.
It's you're cherry picking, which is again,
virtue signaling.
It's marginalization. Anyway, it's a bit grim. We're feeling a bit deflated in the studio today about how that went down. But I would really like to reiterate, thank you everyone who came to show support, and people who showed up despite not having a marquee, people who showed up and made an effort, and people from within the Brisbane Pride organisation as well for doing the best you can where you can. I will hopefully feel better by next year and love to attend. We'll see how things progress. If you would like to reach out to us, by the way, and fill us in on any ideas you may have if you're an organisation or someone who has attended Fair Day in the past, you can reach out at Trans Radio with a Z. That's our Facebook page and all our social media, actually. You can send a message there. Cai or myself will answer. Yeah, so at Trans Radio with a Z.
Also, there were lots of other really cool looking events that we didn't get to go to because we were a bit too deflated, but some really other cool events that were on that day. So, it doesn't always have to be about the Fair Day or about, paid events.
Yeah, exactly.
There's lots of options for us out there, and maybe that's something that we should all look at.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sev, again for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning into Tranzmission. You will be back next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Unless you're listening on the podcast, then you can listen back to us anytime you like. Thank you so much. Love you all. And goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Tranzmission. See you next Tuesday, 9 to 10 a.m. on 4ZZZ.